Hi, I'm Jaqueline P'ng and this is the Evening Highlights. The haze that has cost regional economies an estimated $14 billion to date could last till early next year. That's because El Niño is expected to bring dry weather to Indonesia, which would otherwise have entered its wet season by October and November. The poor man's oil is giving millions in Southeast Asia grief. Haze from over 1,000 deliberately lit fires in Indonesia has forced the closure of schools and the cancellation of thousands of flights, crimping tourism and affecting productivity. 20 million people are ill because of the smog, with over 20,000 seeking medical treatment, and that's just in Indonesia. Now experts are saying the choking smoke isn't going to go away until early 2016. Citing a scientist at Indonesia's Center for International Forestry Research, Reuters reports that the haze may last till January. That's as hotspots reach Papua, a region that's usually untouched by widespread fire as new agricultural areas are opening up. A senior official at the company in Indonesia's reforested areas is more pessimistic. He tells Reuters that the haze could last till March. The worst season on record was in 1997. It cost regional economies $9 billion. ValueCap is set to receive its first tranche of 20 billion ringgit fund injection by the end of November. The state-owned fund manager is being revived to support undervalued stocks on Bursa and shore up the local equities market. ValueCap shareholder Retirement Fund Incorporated, or KWAP, says it's readying the first injection, which will total 6 billion ringgit. The funds will be shared equally with ValueCap's two other shareholders, PNB and Khazanah Nasional. KWAP's portion will come from internal funds. The pension manager is Malaysia's second largest, with a fund size of 117 billion ringgit. And ahead of the tabling of the national budget, RAM Rating says it wants to see more measures to improve fiscal discipline. This includes the setting up of a rainy day fund, which would see the state set aside excess revenue for use during difficult times.
Actually, the inspiration for this fund, it came about from the ratings that we have done in other countries. We have a sovereign rating on Kazakhstan, and we really like the kind of prudence in terms of how they manage it. Over in Kazakhstan, what they do is that all the oil revenues actually get into the fund first, and only a certain amount is taken out and put into the fiscal account for budgetary purposes. And that amount is actually approved by the parliament. If you look at Kazakhstan, they have up to almost close to 40% of GDP in terms of the size of the fund that's built up over just the past few years.
Lai is confident that Putrajaya has the means to set aside this fund. She points out that revenue has been exceeding national spending by about 10% in recent years. Put this 10% aside and give it 4 years, and she says we could be looking at a sizable rainy day fund. It's a sluggish housing market, sales are faltering, property stocks are getting beaten down. You're looking at possibly the worst housing glut in a decade. That's why developers says something needs to be done, and easing lending guidelines is at the top of the list. In 2013, Bank Negara tightened lending guidelines to curb spiraling household debt and cool the market by controlling property speculation. But developers says those measures may have worked too well. As loan rejections rise, genuine first-time buyers, most of them from the middle-class segment, find themselves locked out of the market. And now the industry stakeholder says those guidelines need to be relaxed.
Responsible lending guideline, like I always say, we shouldn't have a one-size-fits-all type of policy. You should look at cases by cases. First-time buyer and versus their combined income, I think they should take a more lenient view.
I really hope, I think there must be a incentive for first home buyers. I think that's very, very important. I think the relaxing of the responsible lending guidelines for first home buyers is a must. I think what Bank Negara has done is great, but we must help first home buyers and promote affordable housing in Malaysia.
Bank Negara Governor Tan Sri Zeti Akhtar Aziz recently defended the guidelines. She also says that it was the bank's responsibility to ensure that Malaysians do not borrow beyond their means. Over 100 firms are keen on a rail project that would shorten the travelling time between Singapore and Kuala Lumpur to just 90 minutes. Authorities in charge of the KL Singapore high-speed rail project issued a joint request for information exercise less than 2 weeks ago. They say response has been positive. Malaysia's SPAD and Singapore's LTA said in a joint statement today that they are pleased by the response. The exercise is aimed at gauging market interest and gathering industry opinions on the commercial and technical aspects of the project. Around 150 companies, some from as far as North America and the Middle East, have responded. The exercise is expected to conclude by the end of the year. The project was first announced in 2013 by Prime Minister Dato Sri Najib Razak and his Singaporean counterpart Lee Hsien Loong. It will have terminus station in Kuala Lumpur's Bandar Malaysia and Singapore's Jurong East and cut travelling time by up to 7 hours. And that's a wrap for this edition of the Evening Highlights. I'm Jaqueline P'ng. Thank you for watching.